Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance Committee. We will begin with public comment if we have any public comment cards. All right, very good. Seeing none, we'll move on to our business items. The first are our action items, and we'll start with the purchasing agenda.
Okay, we'll start right in. We've got several items on here. We'll start. Several of them are kind of renewals. Again, we're at the start of the year. So we've gotten the lease agreement with John Ball Zoo Gardens for the lease for the zoo school. We also, and the next item is we work with Gallagher Benefit Services on our employee benefit plans, some consulting, and they kind of liaison with some of our providers for us and help us figure out what are the best benefit type thing options we can have. So that's a renewal of that agreement. The number 3, fire extinguisher services with firefighter sales. This one actually looks back to 23-24. We had some additional invoices come through for servicing our fire extinguishers. Number 4, this is kind of to try to be proactive. If you remember, with some of our ESSER swap money, lack of a better term, we were able to upgrade or replace some of our very old vehicles. So just want to get to the point of, oops, and I didn't, sorry. When we deferred purchases, a lot of it was on vehicles. So we had a very aged fleet and wanting to not put the district in that situation again. So we're looking to replace one cargo van for facilities and one for MIS this year. We did include those in the original budget update. Item number 5 there is a blanket order for temp employee services. This is for our clerical staff. So if we have a building secretary or a department secretary out, back when we did the other blankets in June, we weren't sure which company we were going to use, so that's why it was not included at this time. So we've now identified OtterBase Incorporated for that. Under special funds instructional, we had Mosaic Masterminds to provide tutoring services during the Loop Summer School program. And also related to the Loop Summer programming, and we did have a increase for the YMCA earlier in July, but as we work through the summer program, we need to increase that blanket as well. This one under support materials, and I know we've had a few questions, so I'm going to ask my colleague Mel Atkins to come down and talk about attendance work and our consulting services for that program.
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody. And so I know, as I understand it, there's really 2 outstanding questions that I'm going to try to give a brief answer, but comprehensive enough to hopefully satisfy your needs. And so the question was, because we know we've been working with Attendance Works, was one is how long we've been working with Attendance Works and what other results has it been working. And so just to set a little context, at the end of the 2023-24 school year, system-wide, it was 42.1% of our scholars were chronically absent. And remember, chronic absenteeism is defined as missing 10% of the school year, regardless of the reason. And so we've been working with Attendance Works since the 2021-22 school year. And since COVID, in GRPS, but also across the nation, we know the attendance rates or percentage of chronic absenteeism has significantly increased, and GRPS is not alone in that effort. There are, what they've been doing the last really 3 school years is really it's been 13 schools we've been working with for multiple years. 12 of the 13 we worked with last year, and out of those 13 schools, there was a 9 percentage point reduction in chronic absenteeism.
Did you say 9?
9 percentage point reduction in chronic absenteeism with those schools. And so what that stemmed from is really a few things. There's really 5 points that I know I talked about it at a previous meeting with, I don't know if it was academic achievement or one of those committees, was around like mindset, actionable data, capacity, strategies, and outcomes. So buildings, we worked with really trying to get off the ground was forming teams, and sometimes they were attendance teams at the building level, to do this work, but they were looking at attendance at least on a biweekly basis to look at causes of chronic absenteeism. When you're thinking about myths, barriers, aversions, and disengagement, trying to identify the solution, but you have to know why they're absent. It was one of the big things. Another big thing was a lot of support with the family support specialists, and so going from kind of truancy home visits to caring conversations. And so that was able to really open up doors for parents to say, I welcome you in, instead of saying I'm not home with that. And so this, what we're proposing for the following year, and we kind of agreed with Attendance Works on both sides that this will be the last year for a while, for a long, I'm not gonna say forever, but for a long while. And so it's capacity building. And so it's capacity building, because Attendance Works was doing a lot of the work hand in hand with us. And so they're gonna be doing a lot of coaching behind the scenes to make sure we have a team of people that can carry this work moving forward with that. And it stems from like core teamwork to establishing a cross-departmental team that has caregivers and community members on that team. We talked about doing a 3-part series, like a gradual release model. They would do first, then we would do it together, then we would do it alone around professional development, making it mandatory for every school to have a attendance team. And if you want more support, we would have more support for you, but taking it beyond the 13 schools that we've been working with and make it, again, a district-wide approach. And so the biggest difference is, summarizing, there was a 9-point percentage reduction. In the rest of the district, it was pretty flat these last few years. And we're taking it from Attendance Works really doing it with us, into them coaching us to do it alone.
Great, thank you, really helpful. Any questions?
Just clarifying real quick, that 9% out of you said 12 of the 13 schools we've been working with, or all 13?
Well, there were 13 original schools that worked, and one school we didn't work with this year. They had a lot going on, but we still monitor to see if they can if there are strategies that they learned over those first 2 years that will still making a difference. So we included them as well.
So that 9%, that was last year's numbers compared to year previous, or the 2 years previous?
And so that was comparing, only thing I compared was last year to this year. It probably would have been, because it was flat the last 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24 from the district. It's been pretty flat. Yeah.
Out of those schools that will still participate, 9% reduction compared to
That's correct. That's correct.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item there under support materials is partnership with International's Network for Public Schools. Last spring, we had a team that visited school in the East and working with the newcomers program and the EL program. So looking to build and strengthen our work at Union High School in that newcomers and bilingual program. And moving down to bond projects, we're continuing to work on the auditorium at Innovation Central. So this is just another step in that process. We've got the amendment, the increase the purchase order for the lighting and sound system. And here we've got the purchase and install of rigging systems and the electrical infrastructure scope for the new auditorium systems and a new control booths.
I have a question, just in general. How do we know what is already like in the budget, like, or are we asking for extra money? Like,
Now, all of these items are included in the original budget. With the construction projects and the bond projects, that's kind of a big overall picture at this point, and we continue to refine it, but each project was assigned a certain dollar amount. And from that, as you get reports out, you'll hear, oh, bids came in under what we thought or over what we thought. If they're coming in over, that's where we're starting to look to see, do we change the scope of what we're asking for so we stay within that budget going forward?
So
If that-
when it's something that is already, that's not in the budget, how would that show up for us? Like, say, something that you guys did not budget for and now you're asking for, like, would it show up like differently, or will we just, do you get what I'm trying to ask?
I was trying to think, that, I
Or would
mean,
you
because
just
our
say-
budget, we adopted at a very high level. So most things are gonna be covered from that as we go through and review accounts and grants and see where we're coming in during the year, and come forward with the first budget amendment. That's where we're gonna be looking at it to say, oh, this item is trending higher than we thought in the original budget, so we need to increase it. At this point, when I'm gonna increase, I'm also gonna be looking for an area that is trending lower that we can decrease, because I'm gonna try to keep us at about a break even, because our original adoption is such a large use of fund balance, that $11 million use of fund balance, so kind of, we'll be juggling it as we go along to make sure that we don't run into a problem, unanticipated problem, put it that way.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, any additional questions about the purchasing agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to move this forward to the board?
Motion.
Support.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will move on to our donation.
Okay, we have it's a small grant, and we're including it as a donation type item. 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not recalling exactly how long ago, but we did have a larger grant with SME Education Foundation for Innovation Central and some of their STEM programs there. So they are continuing to provide kind of a sustainability grant to help with equipment or supplies, professional development, and some extracurricular activities at Innovation Central.
Great, questions about this donation? May I have a motion to move it forward to the board, please?
Support.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to our presentation.
Okay, so as we're starting a new bond program, we've also wrapped up our former bond projects. So in our former bond, we had in 2 series. It was a 2016 series and a 2019 series. We're wrapping those up as we completed our fiscal year 23-24. So we wanted just to report out of what happened with those 2016-2019 bonds. Original bond issue, we received about $174.5 million in it for the actual bond issuance. And then we've also, with this bond program, we kind of had an unusual situation because we kind of braided funds, which isn't typical. If you remember, at the time we were working with Museum Middle School and Museum High School, we did a capital campaign with the foundation to raise some external additional funds. So that was the restricted donations that came in. That's not typical for a bond program. Also in there, you see the largest item is the interest income, the $6.9 million. So as we issue the funds, until we need the funds available to us, we do buy investments so we can earn interest income, investment income on that. Because our bonds are tax exempt, we do have restrictions about how much we can earn. So we kind of monitor that, and our bond financial advisors also help us monitor that to make sure that we're staying in compliance for that of what we can earn and still keep. If we earn more than that is allowable, we do have to make a payment to the IRS. Was not a problem for many years because interest rates were so low, but now that interest rates have been higher lately, we're going to be watching that closer to make sure that we are spending down at an appropriate rate.
Is it a percentage or is it a dollar amount? Do you know the threshold?
I think it's, I'm not sure, I guess.
On the spot.
Maybe
That's
I
all
should
right.
just say
It's just
that. Yeah,
a
I was gonna say,
curiosity.
I better not say because I don't want to misspeak, so. Also, over the course of the bond projects, we did have some rebates or credits. At one point, there was some insurance claim money that came in as well, so we reimbursed the bond project for those items. The other thing that's on there is the sales of Tech and West Leonard buildings. So when we sold the West Leonard building, we had used a previous bond funds to do some improvements at West Leonard. Those had not been like fully depreciated. So when we sold West Leonard, we had to do a calculation and allocate a portion of those sales proceeds back into our current bond program. Same with technology. There were a few things that as we disposed of things, we needed to credit the current bond program. So just kind of file that in the back of your mind of as we approach potential future with our facilities master plan, we may have a similar situation. So if there's a building that at some time in the future we decide to dispose of, and we had used bond funds on improvements there, we'll have to allocate a portion of those bond or those sales proceeds back into a bond. So it was about 85 million in revenue, and this is how we spent it. Mostly on construction and renovation, and we'll look at those projects in a minute. So HVAC projects, let me just look at my notes here. We had 9 sites that received upgrades for those HVAC projects. Technology was another large item in there, and this primarily was before we had COVID funding and ESSER funding to help with devices and classroom technology. Security is another area, so that was secure entrances, locks, and keying projects throughout buildings. This is one that, as we started to get COVID funding and we kind of backed off on using our bond funds for that and started to use some of the COVID funding for some of the additional security projects. So that's why you'll see that number isn't as large as we thought we were going to spend it on originally. Roofs, we had 3 buildings that we did roofs on, is in Kent Hills, Ottawa, and Union. And other is kind of some of the smaller projects that happened and some of the braiding I mentioned earlier. We had some sinking fund projects where we did the building out of the sinking fund. Ridgemore is an example of that. But we also did some smaller projects related to Ridgemore that came out of the bond fund. So this is the fun part, the construction and renovations. And you'll see how many schools we were able to do primarily significant renovations on. Southwest Middle High is actually a new construction of a whole building. Some of that you'll see the earlier projects, the Museum High and the Museum Middle School. Again, those were kind of where we had some of the braided funding with donations. XQ also helped with the museum as well. And you kind of see pre-COVID, post-COVID as far as costs go is in there as well.
That's what I was going to say. The year would almost be beneficial. I didn't think of that before this
That's
meeting.
what I was
but
going to say as I'm saying
right.
it now, yeah.
You'd think Innovation Central got more than Southwest Middle, but that is not the case.
Yeah. And that's where you can build a whole new school for $20 million versus what some of the renovations were.
Yeah.
But this is the fun part. You can actually see some of them. Buchanan was a significant renovation to the building, but also an addition on the back. CA Frost Middle High, this one we took a building that had been offline, Coville Elementary, and converted it into CA Frost Middle High School. City High, I always get this one back. City High Middle also was a very old building, but received significant renovation.
What did they do with those stairs?
I think this is
Oh,
the
okay.
after picture.
Wait, but hold on, I'm tripping. Those stairs aren't there anymore?
They're there.
They're there.
Oh.
Probably repairs to the stairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, they look the same. Maybe the floor, is it a new floor?
Oh, could be.
Mr. Smart?
The floor looks new. Yeah, I see, you thought that picture next to it was the after.
I'm like, that's the library.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Beautiful. You replaced the floor in that area at City? The green floor got replaced?
No, that's still there.
I mean, is that?
Do you know what this picture is referencing, what the renovation work was in the stairwell to the pool?
That I'm not so sure. The old auditorium media center obviously is the flooring and
Yeah.
and the finishes there. But
Oh.
that area there is a floor that we did, a long time ago, 2012, but I'm not so sure what the renovation is.
Just wanna.
That's what I was gonna say. A lot of our renovations are also behind the scenes, so we
Yeah.
also just kind of pulled some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Oops, going backwards. See, GR Montessori Middle High is also included with the Innovation Central, but we also did work at the elementary in the Fountain Building. Innovation Central, you see classrooms in the cafeteria. Museum Middle School, so this was a significant one in cooperation with the Grand Rapids Public Museum. Converted, I think it's part of the third or fourth floor.
Fourth floor, thank you.
Thank you. Into a school. So. And Museum High School, again, it was unused, well, I don't want to say unused. The museum identified a potential space that we could convert into a high school, so. And that was a significant renovation of a building to make it a school. Ottawa Hills, the renovations there in classrooms. And then Southwest Middle High was the actual new construction building, so everything there was brand new. We got a couple pictures there. Union High School, again, it's the significant renovation to the building from what it was. So that's what we've got, and it's kind of somewhat of a walk down memory line because some of these happened several years ago, but
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of memories. A lot of ribbon cuttings and beam signings and groundbreakings. Yeah, good stuff.
Hung out on those stairs at City when it was crusting.
oh.
And they looked the same, so I was like,
Okay, maybe there's a picture we just pulled, but
Yeah.
But I mean, from 16 to 19 is when most of this.
actually, we started in 2016.
Yeah.
The second phase, we issued the bonds in 2019. With COVID, things kind of slowed down for a period, so we're just wrapping up those 2019 bonds here in 2024, so.
Nice.
With Innovation Central being the last project, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. All right, any questions about that or further memories? Okay. Well, hearing none, we've got nothing else on our agenda. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.